Hello, I'm Chuck Koplinski. Welcome to Real Reviews, Cinematic Underground. I'm here with the founder of this fine program, Chike Coleman, and we're going to take a half hour to talk about recent films that have been playing in theaters, as well as any other cinematic thoughts that come into our heads as we spitball about what's going on in the movies. I had the great pleasure last weekend of seeing a movie with you, something we don't do often enough. We went and saw Mirror, Mirror. I have a feeling we're going to be differing a little bit on this one, but what did you think about this take on the Snow White fairy tale?
Let's go with what I liked first. I loved the set design. I love the aesthetic of the entire environment that Snow White was engulfed in.
And why is that? Who is responsible for this?
The person responsible for this vision of Snow White is the director Tarsem Singh. He was most notably directing the film The Fall. I saw that, and it was a brilliantly artistically directed film.
And don't forget the film before that he made, The Cell.
Yes, The Cell.
With Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn, a very good murder mystery, which also had a elaborate, intriguing visual scheme once they get into the mind of this serial killer there.
Agreed, it did. My main fault with the film is that I really, as much as I love Julia Roberts, she grated on me a bit. You know, she hammed it up a bit too much. Nathan Lane, you can expect this from. He's very experienced. But and the Seven Dwarves, so to speak, you can expect humor from them. And there was more humanity in the story for the Seven Dwarves than I thought I would see in a Snow White film. So I enjoyed that a lot. But for some reason, Julia Roberts just got on my nerves.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Well, she's never been a favorite actress of mine.
Okay.
She just has too many teeth for her to make me feel comfortable around her. But I thought she was quite good in this. I enjoyed the fact that she was able to, I felt she was poking fun at her own persona at times. And I thought it was pretty brave of her with all of the close-ups. There were some extreme close-ups that were employed here to make her, so that we could see that she is in fact showing her age and the reasons for her character to be vain and worried about this. I tell you, I thought the film really is getting, I think the film's getting a bad rap.
It is.
In the press.
It is. I think the jokes mostly work no matter how many times they threw a slapstick joke at the audience. I felt like all the jokes really landed for me. I mean, I, for one, watched you a few times, and there were definitely moments where you couldn't stop laughing because we didn't see these jokes coming.
Well, and the thing is that I think also Relativity Media is doing an awful job of promoting this film. Every time you see a commercial, it's the slapstick gags. And a lot of those slapstick gags look as though they appear on the Forest set, which is a set. The commercials aren't underlining or not showing just how visually beautiful this film is.
Right.
So they're selling that short. And the humor is more than slapstick, as you say. I mean, there are some really quick little things that happen.
I mean, just in
verbally,
the dialogue between the dwarves.
That is really good.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is the most solid piece of the film, is when the jokes land, they hit hard.
Right. I mean, and so I think they're really not selling this film correctly. They're selling it short. And Armie Hammer, who up until this point we've only seen in serious films, he really showed me that he is not afraid to just make a complete ass of himself
he was
to
really
go for a laugh.
Poking fun at himself.
And I really appreciated that. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. And this young girl, Lily Collins, I mean, just so pretty. I mean, she was born to play this role.
I'm going to call her eyebrows. No.
Oh, you've got to get away from those eyebrows.
I can't. Just too much for me.
Well, not only very beautiful, but also she has a presence on the screen. And I liked late in the film when she becomes more of a warrior.
Yeah.
That was convincing as well.
I didn't buy that. I didn't buy that as much, though.
It's a fairy tale.
But
it's a fairy tale.
What I did buy, however, is the fact that, you know, her Snow White felt a lot to me like the Disney version of Snow White from, what was it, 1937?
Yes, and what's wrong with that?
I love that. That was something I really liked. I mean, the level of sweetness wasn't overdone. I felt like if you took her and you put her in the Disney version from 1937, you would get pretty much equal portrayals throughout, minus the warrior bit.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this matches up. I was at the movies yesterday, and they showed yet another preview to the other Snow White film coming out, Snow White and the Huntsman, and that's going to be a completely different take as well on this tale. It looks very much like a Lord of the Rings type thing.
Yes.
Very serious, very violent it seems. They showed for the first time a creature, a monster in the forest that I had not seen before. It's just interesting when you go back to these seminal tales and you look at it from different angles. I really enjoy when they do that and it succeeds. And I'm really looking forward to this other version as well.
I am, however, a bit worried about Snow White and the Huntsman, and I'll tell you why.
Please tell me why.
I find Kristen Stewart to be a very, very bland actress. Not that she's expressionless, because it's not that she's expressionless. It's just that nothing in her performances seems organic, but I guess after 4 Twilight films, I'm sorry, is it 5 now? Because we got Breaking Dawn Part 1.
It will be 5 coming out
5
this
now,
fall.
I'm sorry. 5 now. I'm sorry, Twilight fans. There have been 5 Twilight films, and I've not seen an organic performance from her since before those films began. And that bothers me on a very deep level, because I want to be able to feel something when I watch Snow White rage into battle, although that's really weird saying that because it's a fairy tale. But it's a twist, and that's the reason that, you know, that has really intrigued. It's like a very much a warrior's tale. But I want something that's not a bland performance from her. I'm dying to see something stronger from that actress.
Okay.
Do you agree?
It could be the one weak link in the film, but we'll have to reserve judgment till we see it. But it seems as though there are plenty of other strong things there that I still am looking forward to it.
Well, I saw a movie this week that I thought we could discuss, and this may take, warning, this may take the rest of the 30 minutes we have, and I'm going to try and be as careful as I can with this. I saw The Skin I Live In, and
one of my favorite films from last year.
One of your favorite films from last year, and now I think firmly sits atop my favorite film of 2011. And the sad thing is I cannot tell you why, because telling you why would be spoiling most of the plot.
Well, you have just recently seen it, though, and I mean, it's a film that you have to really mull over, and you know, really, it takes some time to process it all. And as you do that, you even come away
with
more impressed.
Yeah, definitely. I want to say a special thanks to whoever was the art director on that film, because those sets are absolutely astounding for what was done. In terms of, you know, the writing on the wall and the dates and things, and just the interior of that house is just gorgeous. I don't say that as any sort of home decorator aficionado. I just like the way the film looks. Now, having said that, I have to give some form of plot.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know. It involves people, one of those people being the main character of Antonio Banderas, and he has a mother, and he has a patient that is staying in his house. That is all I can safely say. Can we discuss this film without using
Sure, of course we can. Yeah,
spoilers?
he's a plastic surgeon. He's a plastic surgeon, and his wife died in a horrible accident years before, a car wreck. She was burned horribly. And this has set him out to form a new sort of synthetic skin for burn victims.
Yeah, that we can say. That we can say for
And he has succeeded in doing this.
He has succeeded in doing this, but not at great personal cost.
Yes, great personal cost, and also I would think not only personal cost, but I believe that he has ruined his morality along the way as well. I think that's safe to say too.
Do you think that was caused by his wife and what happened to her?
No, I think, well,
you could paint that 2 ways in this film, though.
Well, you're dealing with obsession here. I mean, he loses all track of reality in his obsession and in his quest to generating this synthetic skin. And the method by which he goes about it, I thought, was quite ingenious.
It really is.
From a scientific, technical point of view. From a moralistic point of view, though, it's not good at all, because he has kept someone in his house that he is experimenting on.
Right, and we can't say why they're being experimented on, but safe
It's
to
just
say
it's
the best thing that could possibly happen,
It's a
given the
beautiful-
circumstances of what happened to his character and the people he cares about.
It's a beautiful young lady that he is experimenting on. But something else that is also driving him is that his daughter was a victim of rape as well. And that is also something that preys upon him.
I don't... It's safe for me to say that I enjoyed this film about as much as you did. Probably after multiple viewings, I will probably even go away with a stronger sense of love for this film. Here's my thing, though, and I have to do this without giving much away. The events that befall his personal life inform his obsession, and that's what I found to be one of the most intriguing and heart-wrenching things about this film. There's a scene very early on in this film where someone is invited into his house and mistakes the person he has staying there for someone else. And the groan-inducing feeling that I felt when that person attempted to, and probably in a way did take advantage of that person that is in his house, broke my heart. And then later on, when other things are revealed to us, I felt no sympathy at all.
Wow, you are rough.
Yeah.
You are rough.
I'm telling you my honest feeling.
I
felt no sympathy at all.
If we're talking about the same person, I did feel quite a bit of sympathy for that person.
And when you saw it, you felt sympathy, but after knowing what you know, do you still feel sympathy now?
Yeah, as I say, if we're talking about who I think we're talking about, yes. Yes, I do.
Can you tell me why without giving anything away?
Because of how radically that person's life was changed without there being without that person having any choice in the matter. I mean, I have no problem with justice being meted out. But
do you feel
this goes way beyond that.
So
And that informs then how we look at the Banderas character. That shows us just how lost he is and how corrupted he has become. I see this as a tragedy. The Banderas character with his...
The Banderas character to me is the tragedy, yes.
He is totally the tragedy. I mean, he's brilliant. And this breakthrough that he has could benefit millions. Yet it is not for that reason that he does this. He has become completely corrupted.
Actually,
and in the end, he gets what he deserves.
Actually, it's a movie about greed. Essentially, tragedy and greed. And I think, for me, personally, the events that transpire throughout this film's 2-hour running time, and for those of you who say, oh, crud, it's a 2-hour running time, I can't stand it, sit through to the very end. I really believe that this tragedy not only informs us of his character as a person or his lack thereof, but it also informs us of the person he is treating and seeing. I think that that's the most powerful thing about this film. I'll tell you the moment that really moved me throughout the entire film. Not when his daughter was raped, not when we're first introduced to the patient, but at the very end of the film. That whole explanation of that person finally being free and finally being able to talk to two people that she cared about and explain. I can't explain the sadness and somberness on my face when there was that line exchange between Christina, the shopkeeper, and the patient in question.
Right.
That broke me entirely.
Yeah, she changes completely. It is a complete transformation in many, many ways. And I mean, it's a journey that is...
It's polarizing in a way.
Yeah. You have to remember, this film is made by Pedro Almodovar, the great Spanish filmmaker.
Who also did Bad Education, as I recall.
Oh, he's done many, many great films. Talk to Her, All About My Mother, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
The last film that Antonio Banderas did, which was over 20 years ago now.
I believe so. Yeah, he deals a lot with gender. Gender is a big focus of his, and this, of course, bends the whole gender thing completely out of control.
This is almost like the psychology of gender and what it means to identify with one gender or the other.
Right.
And that's what I love.
Breaking down those boundaries that are often put up between genders. Yeah, this could be easily shown in a class that deals with gender. I mean,
Easily.
It really delves into this topic better than any. And the thing also about Almodovar is, he's tricky in that he, he uses flashbacks and flashbacks within flashbacks, and the narrative turns in and around itself. And I know his cinema is quite challenging. But this film,
it's a beautifully complicated film, but also absurdly simple.
I was going to say, I think it's probably the most accessible.
Yeah.
Of his films. I mean, if you just stick with it, and after a half hour, if you are not grabbed by this thing, then give it up.
Yeah.
But after that half hour, you see this thing through the end, and you're like, wow. I mean, not only are we dealing with heady subjects, but he then, of course, reiterates just what a master storyteller he is.
And I watched the Ebert Presents at the Movies review of The Skin I Live In with Christy Lemire. And she did not like the film. She thought it was a misstep for Almodovar, and I have to heavily disagree.
Well, you know what, though? But this is a film that I can respect that. This is a movie where you have to walk away and say, okay, we can agree to disagree. Because I can respect people who would have had problems with it. I get it. It's just that I don't feel the same.
Okay, fair enough. The third movie that I thought you'd be interested in talking about this week, because we had to neglect it last week, is We Need to Talk About Kevin, which recently showed at the Art Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I have both seen this film, correct?
Correct.
I want to go with what your feelings are on that film first.
Oh, please, let's go with you first, because I know this is a favorite. Let's just say that you overused the color red in this film. That's my feeling about this film.
Well, okay. The best way I can describe this film is this film is about motherhood and the strain it puts on one person.
Especially when you're not prepared for it.
Especially when you're not prepared for it. It's not that you don't want it, it's just that you're not prepared. I want to make that very clear.
I would disagree with that.
Would you really, considering the second child she had later on in the film?
That doesn't matter. I don't think that she ever meant to be or wanted to be a mother.
Well, to deepen the plot a little bit, Tilda Swinton, also known by Roger Ebert as Saint Tilda,
and you as well, I think.
No, I adore the actress, but I don't go by nicknames.
Oh, okay.
Tilda Swinton stars as Eva, a woman who is very much a free spirit in, I guess, the early 90s, maybe.
Yeah.
We could say early 90s. And she has a son named Kevin, who comes out of the womb kicking and screaming and really never stops hating...
The worst of all bad seeds.
Hating who his mother is and hating everything about her, regardless of not knowing a thing about her, other than that he is stuck with this parent. But he treats his father, with every amount of love and affection that a son should and probably, if given the right circumstances, would. And you see all this in a series of flashbacks. The time frame of this film is very difficult to pinpoint. It's very hard to tell whether you're in the present or two different sections of the past. Mm-hmm. And that may be Lynn Ramsey, the director's one misstep of the film. Because I would like to have known, okay, where in the past are we exactly? In the end, you figure it out, but it takes so long to try and figure out where you are. And I believe that the draw of this film is not Tilda Swinton. It's not even Ezra Miller, the actor who played Kevin.
Who does a great job.
He does a great job. I'm not disputing that. But I think it's the child actors that really grab you in this film. That really just, you want to punish them so badly. Or at least, ask them where their anger and their vitriol hatred for their mother comes from. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes this film so engaging, is watching her struggle with these, well, in this case, one kid, but played by two different actors, struggle with this kid that she has, and how it just slowly eats away at her, especially by the film's conclusion when everything becomes so shockingly clear. I make no qualms about it. I love this film. But I don't love it because of Tilda Swinton. I love it because of how the story is framed. The colors that they use, as you mentioned, red is used heavily in this film, mostly as a metaphor, I think. But I love this film. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good film. I certainly don't love it, but it's well done. It's well made. It's a bit too obvious, I think.
Yes, agreed. I think they give away the twist way too early.
Not so much with the twist, but visually it's just too obvious. I mean, you mentioned the visual metaphors of the, I mean, I get it. You don't have to, rub my face in it. I understand why we're using this color and its presence within, the film and how it relates to the story. I think it's, you mentioned the flashbacks.
Yes.
And I think that whole technique was overused. It calls attention to itself. And I think that was the problem with the film I had, was that I think Ramsey calls attention to her own techniques far too often in the movie, and it became distracting to me, and it prevented me from becoming fully engaged. That being said, like I say, I liked it, I just didn't love it as you do, and it certainly does speak to a problem in our society that needs to be addressed and examined far more often in film and the media in a logical and straightforward manner without any sort of sensationalism, because what Kevin does in the end is a phenomenon that has become far too prevalent in today.
It bothers me on an intense level because when I first saw this film, did not see any signs of trouble. I just saw a person who did not want to be
You just
a
saw the
part of
relationship
society.
he's completely a sociopath.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
And you see that in his interactions not only with his mother, but with his sister. And I think the one...
And that's really where the film gets frightening.
Yeah.
To me, is when the
when you're
sibling
fearing
shows
for the
up.
sibling,
Yeah.
that's when you're like,
This is going to take a bad turn.
I just don't know where it's coming from, but it's going to happen. And I think the most telling scene of the entire movie, where the movie really works, there are only two places where I believe the movie really, really excels. And that it's enough to hold together the entire rest of the plot. Are you ready for these two places?
Please.
First place is after she goes for the job application, and then right after she leaves, she gets slapped in the face, and she said, no, I did it, that was me. Almost as if she's blaming herself.
Right.
That bit was very striking to me. And of course, the other scene that I know you're probably going to guess is when Kevin is sick and his mother reads him Robin Hood. And how he responds to his father in the same kind that he usually reserves for his mother.
Right.
Those, to me, are the defining moments of the film that keep it going, that keep you asking what's really going on here. But yeah, I greatly enjoyed this film. Not as much, however, as I enjoyed The Skin I Live In. That will probably go atop my top movies of 2011, pushing Another Earth and, of course, Shame to second and third.
And as far as back to, we need to talk about Kevin, there's a film that Ramsey did years ago called Ratcatcher, about kids growing up in public housing in London, and I know you would really admire that as well, and I know it's readily available. So Ratcatcher and Fish Tank would be an interesting double feature. Yeah,
I would love to see that as a double feature at the Art, or tug it and get it to a movie theater, Beverly, Savoy, whatever you choose. And we've talked about Tug before as the organization that will bring movies to the theaters for you, given you can get a certain cap of
if there
people.
is a demand. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I like about when we talk, is when we talk about films that don't get talked about often. And the Art Theater has been doing a great job lately. They've had their documentary film festival.
Right. I'm excited for Being Elmo, A Puppeteer's Journey.
Yes.
Which it seems like I shouldn't be because it's a child's...
No, it's not.
Well, it's a child's toy, but...
Oh, well, there's much more to it.
But there's so much more humanity to the person behind that puppet figure.
Yes, we did watch Being Elmo at home before, and I will lend it to you.
Oh.
And it is, it's an interesting story by a guy by the name of Kevin Clash, who from a low-income family in Baltimore, and he was just quite taken with Sesame Street and the Muppet Show, and starts to make his own Muppets early on. Gets the eye of Jim Henson, gets involved with him in his productions, but what really makes the film special is that you notice almost immediately that with a lot of these performers, it reminds you that they hide behind the performance object. I mean, he's very shy and withdrawn, but of course, when he brings Elmo to life, Elmo expresses all the things that he can't, and that's what really is interesting.
Right. I wanted to talk with you about one last film, and I know we only have a few minutes left, and that is American Reunion, because I tried to keep it as current as possible. What did you think of that film?
I hated it. But, you know, I've hated all of those films. And, you know, comedy is subjective. What certain people find funny, I might not. What I find funny, they may not. But, yeah, it's still just more of the same.
It really is, from what I've seen in the trailers. And when we talked on the phone recently, and I asked you about the film, every trope that I thought was going to be there was there. They didn't do anything different other than having the characters basically reminisce. I mean, that was my main issue with the film is, well, even though I haven't seen it, I'm just saying issue with the trailer.
Well, it's my issue with all these films is, you know, I don't mind that things are crude. I don't mind sexual jokes. That's fine. What I hate about the movies is that they're so simplistic. The jokes are one-note jokes. They're telegraphed way before time. It's just the simplest, most obvious type of humor, and that's what I hate. You look at, you know, something like the Farrelly Brothers films, when they were really making good movies, they could deal with certain issues, but they would do it in an imaginative, not so obvious way that made the gag not only funny, but surprising. There are no surprises in the American Pie movies, and that's what I don't like about them. Yeah, nothing at all. No shocks in a good way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I watched the first two, didn't really like them. I didn't even bother to see the third. I was just like, nope, not going to do it. And then, I don't know. I'm going to spoil something about this movie for our viewers, just so that they know that this happens. Yes, the baby, the person that Jim babysat for is attracted to him. So if you were thinking, oh, this might happen, yeah, it does. Anything that you think will happen probably happens in this film, which is why you don't need to waste your money to go see it. You should go to the video store, rent The Skin I Live In, Ratcatcher, Fish Tank, Shame, or if you're really brave, rent Fat Girl by, I think her name is Catherine Berlotte or something of that nature. So if you're planning on going to go see American Reunion, do yourself a favor and go see one of those other films that I've just named. Until next time, I'm Chike Coleman, and this has been Real Review Cinematic Underground. We will see you on another lovely Saturday.